Is that camera going?
Smile. Smile for
I'm
it.
smiling.
Say, state police got me.
One moment this guy is driving through Kentucky with his 3-year-old daughter asleep in the backseat. But just a few moments later, he's outside his car on the asphalt getting the crap kicked out of him by a Kentucky state trooper. 7 months ago, I showed you the video of Kentucky State Trooper Seth Owens arresting Devin Langsdorf during a traffic stop. After beating him, Trooper Owens charged Devin with speeding, reckless driving, failure to produce insurance, failure to maintain insurance, disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, no registration receipt, and endangering the welfare of a minor. Trooper Owens really threw the book at Devin.
Yes?
Kristen, this is Trooper Owens with the state police.
What's wrong?
Your husband's going to jail. You need to come up here and get your daughter. He was driving reckless and then some other stuff.
At the time I covered the incident 7 months ago, the charges were still pending, but now, just a few days ago, those criminal charges went to a jury trial.
A man who says he was violently arrested and falsely charged took the stand in his own defense today.
The case went before a Boyle County jury, and it didn't take them very long to reach a verdict.
And rather than hear it from me, I want you to hear from the actual lawyer who tried that case. And he's a good one. Basically, Trooper Owens effed around, and he found out.
On cross-examination, I said, "Where did you use it? What were your other stops?" "I don't remember." This trooper's testimony was awful. The faces of the jurors was very telling, where he says, "Smile, say KSP got you."
Smile. Smile for
I'm
it.
smiling.
Say, state police got me.
I asked him, I said, "Tell me about that. Do you think that was appropriate?" And he goes, "No, that was very unprofessional."
Excellent work.
I mean, this trooper, honestly, I do not believe had been properly prepared to take a witness stand. I said, "I will eviscerate him." I mean, they served him up on a civil platter for me.
The cases that stay with me are the ones where the damage was done before anyone even knew to fight back. By the time they understood their options, it was too late. Medicare is much the same. People trust that their Medicare broker has their best interests in mind, and unfortunately, that isn't often the case. In fact, the DOJ filed a massive fraud complaint alleging that the largest brokers in the country were steering seniors to the plans that paid the highest kickbacks to them as opposed to the plans that were right for the actual seniors. That's why Chapter is important. They are the Medicare advocates that I trust because Chapter is the only advisor that compares every Medicare plan nationwide, and their advisors are independent, unbiased, and salary-based so that they work for you and not big insurance. If you are already on the right plan, they will tell you, and if not, they can help you switch. The call is free and they can review your options in about 20 minutes. So call Chapter at 215-876-8603. Again, that number is 215-876-8603. Navigate Medicare with the advocate that you deserve. Now let's get back to the video. This involves what appears to be a young Kentucky State Trooper named Seth Owens. It all starts off as a routine speeding stop, where apparently the speed limit is only 55, despite the fact that this is a divided 4-lane highway. While traveling east on Highway 150, I observed the above vehicle traveling westbound at 81 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone. I made a U-turn to catch up to the vehicle. After multiple miles, I observed the vehicle to be traveling 86 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone. By all accounts, this began as just a regular, routine traffic stop for speeding. The entirety of his dash cam footage that showed this guy driving did not show any reckless driving. And then Trooper Owens walks up to the driver's side window of this individual he's just pulled over. Trooper Seth Owens, although he had a body camera in his police car, he was not wearing it for some reason. Now, he puts it on at a later point, as you'll see.
Is that camera going?
Smile. Smile for
I'm
it.
smiling.
Say, state police got me.
But at the very beginning, he is not wearing it. You can hear, I think, some conversation. I can't make any of it out just through the dash cam. That leaves us basically with the testimony of the two individuals as to what was said and what was not said. After making contact with the operator, he was agitated and asked if he could leave the traffic stop. Devin was advised he could not leave and to provide his operator's license and proof of insurance. So this is what I'm told was said at the very beginning. As Trooper Owens comes up to the vehicle the first time, as the driver Devin is handing him his license, Devin asks Trooper Owens, "Can I go up here?" pointing to the section ahead of him in the road that's a little bit wider and perhaps safer. In response to this, apparently consenting to that, the trooper turns around and he begins to walk back to his police car. Devin said, "Sir, I wasn't done speaking. Can you please come back?" That's when Trooper Owens just immediately begins to open the driver's side door without saying anything else. In response to that, Devin said, "What are you doing?" Then Trooper Owens proceeded to basically jump over Devin, trying to unbuckle his seatbelt, and he starts sort of cranking on his arm. At that point, Trooper Owens tells him to get out of the car. Devin asks him, "What is the lawful reason?" Owen replies, "Because I said so." Then Devin says, "Where's your de-escalation skills? And where's your body cam?" And he was exactly right. Where was his body cam? The trooper does something that I don't think I've ever seen, and that's where he goes from a hands-on situation where he's holding on to Devin's arm, and he just lets go. He grabs his hat from the top of the car, and he turns around and he walks away. He goes back to his police car. He then grabs his body cam, he attaches it to his chest, and then he returns to Devin's car.
Get out.
Don't touch the door.
Get out.
My daughter's sleeping. Please.
That's fine. Get out. Get out of the car. Yes, there is.
Why is the reason? Is it officer safety? I have no guns.
Get out. Because I said so. Get out.
There's no because I said so.
Yeah, the Supreme Court says you have to if I ask you to. Get out of this car right now.
Basically, the courts allow for officer safety reasons a traffic stop to be conducted with the occupants outside of the vehicle. So same stop, just a different location. That's what the Supreme Court case of Pennsylvania versus Mims says. Here, if the officer was referring to Pennsylvania versus Mims, he seems to be transgressing the bounds of that holding. Eventually, Devin does voluntarily exit the vehicle, but then it seems like he's quickly punished for obeying the trooper.
Get out, sir. Get out.
Let go of me. Let go of me.
Get out.
Let go of me.
Get on the ground.
I'm not getting on the ground. What the is your problem? Get in. You know what? You just want to fight. Get now. Damn it.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
I can't.
Put your hands. Put your hands behind your back.
Sir, my daughter's in the car.
Put your hand behind your back.
I can't.
Here's another bizarre thing that happens. These bystanders just kind of stop along this highway and they run towards what's happening here, and they basically join in with the trooper. And we've seen that before in other videos, but what is super crazy here, he basically lets them assist and go hands-on with Devin.
My daughter's in the car. Please help me, sir. Oh, God, my God, you broke my rib. Oh, God. I'm not resisting. He's me up. Really excessive. Oh, God.
When I tell you to get out, that's what I meant.
You come off hot really fast, man.
Ready? Yeah. Roll over. Sit on your butt.
What is wrong with you guys?
Sit on your butt.
Oh, you really fucked up my
Once
knee.
this time. That's good.
What is wrong with you? I don't consent to search and seizures.
Well, that's good.
Get out of my vehicle. Close the door, sir.
No, you're going to jail. I'll search this car if I want to.
However, in the 2009 U.S. Supreme Court case Arizona versus Gant, the court held that police may search a vehicle incident to a recent occupant's arrest only if 1, the arrestee is unsecured and within reaching distance of the passenger compartment at the time of the search, or 2, It is reasonable to believe that the vehicle contains evidence of the offense for which the person was arrested. Here, one cannot apply because Devin is already in handcuffs and he's not within reaching distance of the passenger compartment at the time the search would take place. Therefore, he can only search the vehicle pursuant to an arrest if he has reason to believe that the vehicle contains evidence of the offense for which he's being arrested.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Corner quick stopping route to Jackson County Detention.
Is she still sleeping? Is she still sleeping?
150. About a mile from Danville.
Is she sleeping? Okay. She's good. She's alright.
Who can come get her? That's good. I'll just have the cabinet get her. That's fine. The cabinet?
What's the cabinet? Seriously, all that clicking for what?
Because you don't want to listen.
Get out of my vehicle. I don't consent.
Well, you don't have to. I would say
I'll get up. I hope you do
that'd be
beat me
another
up more.
mistake.
Is that camera
You
going?
want your phone to call somebody?
Is that phone? Hey, is that camera going?
Smile for
I'm
it.
smiling.
Say, state police got me. Is this Kristen?
Yes.
Kristen, this is Trooper Owens with the state police.
What's wrong?
Your husband's going to jail. You need to come up here and get your daughter.
What happened?
He was driving reckless and then some other stuff. So, who else can come get the children? I don't want the cabinet to take them.
Oh my God, no.
Devin was charged with speeding 26 miles per hour over the limit, reckless driving, failure to produce insurance card. He was charged with failure to maintain insurance, although he did have insurance. He was charged with disorderly conduct in the second degree, resisting arrest. He was charged with not having a registration receipt, and he was charged with endangering the welfare of a minor. So 8 criminal charges filed against Devin. That was like 7 months ago. It took all this time. They just went to jury trial just a couple of days ago, and the result was fantastic. Devin won completely, 100%.
A man who says he was violently arrested and falsely charged took the stand in his own defense today.
The case went before a Boyle County jury, and it didn't take them very long to reach a verdict. LEX 18's Kaylee Randall was there for the trial and tells us what happened in the courtroom.
That's right. Kentucky man Devin Langsdorf was found not guilty for reckless driving and a direct verdict for speeding and resisting arrest. During testimony today, Owens says he followed Kentucky State Police protocol when he leg whipped and punched Langsdorf. Langsdorf was charged with resisting arrest, reckless driving, and speeding, which he was cleared of by a jury today.
I'm feeling really good, feeling positive. It's a really good outlook on this.
And the trial went so well because Devin had hired a great lawyer. This is attorney Ephraim Helton.
Did you guys expect that verdict?
Yes, we did. We worked very hard on this case, and I didn't believe the evidence was there for any of the charges.
I've interviewed him before because I've covered some of his other cases. He is a top-notch criminal defense attorney and civil rights lawyer. He spent some time with me here this morning to discuss all of the awesome things that happened at this trial. It was like 7 months ago, I think I did a video on this case, on what had happened. The charges were still pending.
Yes.
There were like 6 or 7 charges. I mean, they really threw the book at him here.
There were actually 8 in all.
8. And so those charges recently went to a jury trial.
Correct. And we actually went to the jury trial on only 3 charges. The Commonwealth dismissed the endangering the welfare of a minor, dismissed the disorderly conduct second, and dismissed the no registration because we had proof of registration, dismissed the no insurance, no proof of insurance. And so we went to trial on reckless driving, on speeding, and on resisting arrest.
Tell me what happened at trial.
At trial, I mean, I'd advised the Commonwealth, I'd advised the court all week leading up to this, and really the 2 weeks leading up to it, that there just wasn't sufficient evidence to go forward on, I felt, both the reckless driving and the resisting arrest. I thought the videos spoke for themselves, and I asked the jury, I said, I'm going to quote George Orwell here. You know, the final command the Commonwealth's going to give you, and I said this to them in voir dire, is they're going to want you to disbelieve your eyes and disbelieve your ears. And I asked each one of the jurors to promise me you'd follow your eyes and your ears, and they did. The judge did grant a directed verdict on the speeding because we had subpoenaed the KSP policies and procedures for radar. There was two prongs to it. One, they had to produce a log to show the tuning forks had been recorded in, which they did the day before trial. But they also had to ask the trooper, did you calibrate your radar at the start of your shift and at the end of your shift? The Commonwealth and the trooper failed to testify that he calibrated at the end of the shift. At voir dire, I was actually going to stipulate speeding. But then as I was preparing for trial, I thought, why am I going to stipulate something that they may not prove? And so they failed to ask that second prong. Trooper Owens, did you calibrate your radar at the conclusion of the shift? So when they didn't, I got a directed verdict on that issue. And then on the resisting arrest, the judge actually back in chambers after I made my motion. And as you know, you have to construe the evidence in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth when you're moving for a directed verdict. And he looked at the video, looked at the law. They had accepted my jury instructions, and we had some case law that showed that passive resistance is not resisting arrest. And that's why law enforcement is able to use reasonable force. We don't believe this was reasonable in this context. But passive resistance isn't resisting arrest. And the judge, after looking at that, directed a verdict on the resisting arrest. So the judge in the Commonwealth looked at me and said, okay, reckless driving. The officer had testified that my client was weaving in and out of traffic and that he had to catch up to it. Okay. The thing was, his dash cam showed my client weaving through no traffic, showed no other traffic on the highway. And in Kentucky, for careless driving or reckless driving, you have to show that you endangered other vehicles or pedestrians, which was not true on the video. The officer testified that he didn't activate his blue lights until he was close to my client's vehicle, which then activated the dash cam. And so I knew there was sufficient evidence to go to the jury. Both the Commonwealth and the judge kind of looked at me, well, go ahead and plead him guilty to reckless. Thought about it, and I said no, because the worst that could happen would be the jury would find him guilty of reckless. So what I argued to the jury, and I had the protocols and the procedures from KSP, you're supposed to activate your lights when you're in pursuit. And he had testified he'd made a U-turn. He never activated his lights till he was right behind my client. If he had activated his lights, his dash cam would have come on, which we think would have shown no other vehicles. So I said, no, we'll take it to the jury. I didn't put my client on. I didn't put one witness on. I did a 10-minute closing argument and just basically said, you can't believe Trooper Owens. You've seen what he did on the video, but now he wants to tell you he's weaving out of cars. He testified he violated 2 of our Kentucky revised statutes, and he violated 3 policies and procedures. The jury was out less than 10 minutes and rendered a not guilty.
Trooper Owens chose not to even wear or use his body cam at the first or at the beginning of the stop, right?
Yes, and he also testified the reason why that occurred was because his body cam needed charging, and he'd used it so many times during that day. On cross-examination, I said, where did you use it? What were your other stops? I don't remember. He also testified in Kentucky, when you place someone under arrest, you have to say you're under arrest, you have to say what you're under arrest for, and you have to put them in restraint. His testimony on direct was that he placed Devin under arrest the minute he walked up to the vehicle at the outset, which was not on body cam. So I said, Trooper, what were you placing him under arrest for? Well, reckless. How did you say it? Well, I don't know. Well, now, were you really placing him under arrest for reckless? Well, I don't remember that. And then he said Devin became belligerent and used cuss words. Trooper, tell me how he became belligerent. Well, I don't really remember. Trooper, tell me what cuss words were used. Well, I can't recall the exact cuss words. This trooper's testimony was awful. I mean, it was awful. And that's what I think the jury looked at and found. And when you can't recall that, so the judge found in his directed verdict that he had never placed him under arrest. And the trooper on the witness stand admitted he violated, I think it's KRS 431.25 or 35, because he didn't place him under arrest. He also admitted he didn't put him in restraints, because if you remember on the video, after he talked to him, he puts his hat on the car, then he puts his hat back on and he walks back. And he says at that point, he's already placed under arrest. I said, how many times have you ever placed somebody under arrest and you leave them in a car? And that also violated the KSP policies and procedures. And then in the video, the rear dash cam, which I don't think you've seen, he's got Devin handcuffed in the back. He transports him to the Bull County Detention Center with no seatbelt on, which violated not only the KRS on that, but also KSP's policies and procedures.
How old of a guy is Trooper Owens?
I would say late 20s, mid to late 20s.
Yeah, this jury determined that he is a liar.
Absolutely. I think they found he had no credibility. The faces of the jurors when they were watching these videos, people were turning away, people were shaking their heads. The faces of the jurors was very telling. And in fact, the civil lawyer, somebody from his firm, was there watching it, and he spent a good portion of his time watching the jurors' faces on this.
So what happens next? Have you guys filed a civil lawsuit?
We had already filed the civil lawsuit. We just went ahead and filed that because we knew we weren't going to get anywhere, moving forward without the civil lawsuit. And so we filed that. I have a motion for a scheduling order and a pretrial, which is scheduled to be heard on May the 5th.
Did Trooper Owens did he testify about, perhaps it wasn't relevant, but did he testify about the use of force? I mean, where he's out there on the pavement just pounding away at Devin?
He tried to say that is how he was trained. I said, what about the leg whip? He called it a leg sweep. I went through his citation because he says assisted to the ground. He had to admit under cross-examination that was not accurate. He had to admit, he said he also extricated him from the car. I said, Trooper, and I had to play that twice in front of the jury. I said, where's there's extrication here? He voluntarily comes out. It takes him a while, but he comes out. And so he said, well, that wasn't truthful. And then, in your story, you had played where he says, smile, say KSP got you.
Is that camera going?
Smile for
I'm
it.
smiling.
Say, state police got me.
I asked him, I said, tell me about that. Do you think that was appropriate? And he goes, no, that was very unprofessional. And I followed that up with, Trooper, isn't it true? There was a lot of unprofessional conduct by you as concerns this stop. And he said, yes, there was.
Excellent work.
I mean, this trooper, honestly, I do not believe had been properly prepared to take a witness stand. And I advised the Commonwealth. I said, you put him on a witness stand based upon his citation and everything that we're going through. I said, I will eviscerate him. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't take pleasure in it. I mean, I felt sorry for the trooper. And a lot of it we had been prepared with in taking the depositions of the Danville police officers in the Hardwick case, because we took, I think, 6-7 depositions in that case. And we really went through these citations and were able to show how stuff was just made up. I mean, literally made up.
Yeah, it's amazing when they're used to writing all this BS in the reports, like assisted to the ground and whatnot. Then they have this harsh reality of being confronted by a lawyer who knows his stuff, and they're completely just blindsided by it.
Yes, I mean, I would have, if I had been, the prosecution in this, I would have had him gone in and admit. And finally, some of the police officers at the end of our depositions, yes, that is not accurate. Yes, I failed to put this in. In Trooper Owens' case, he doubled down, and he doubled down in direct, which is a lawyer's dream. I mean, they served him up on a civil platter for me.
It would be interesting, given his testimony, that he allegedly didn't use his body cam at the beginning because the battery was getting low because he had done so much earlier that day. It would be really interesting to FOIA all of his activity for that day before this incident.
Well, that's coming in the civil suit.
Yeah, he may have committed perjury there and painted himself into a corner, which wouldn't be the first time with a Kentucky state trooper.
Well, my co-counsels in this case, Brent Caldwell and Noah Caldwell, we had lunch yesterday and we were speaking about that. I said, we're not going to even take his deposition at this point because we have his testimony locked in. We're going to do our discovery practice and do exactly as you said. What was he doing from the start of his shift till this occurred, which was about 5 hours into his shift?
Do you know whether or not up to this point, Trooper Owens received any sort of discipline from the Kentucky State Police?
To the best of my knowledge, he did not. I will say there was a KSP representative at the first part of the trial, but then left. And I think left before Trooper Owens underwent cross-examination.
Excellent work, Mr. Helton. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing this with me and sharing it with others. You really do top-notch work in with these sorts of cases, and these results are just fantastic. I know that this is exactly what we need to see more of, and so please keep up the good work, and let me know when something happens with that civil case, because I'd like to continue to follow this one.
Well, as I told the jury, as a child, I was in that courthouse. My mother took me up when I was probably 10 or 11 years old because I wanted to be a lawyer, had me sit with the circuit judge for a day, watch rule day. I loved it. And I told them, I said, this had been a dream of mine and I got to live my dream. And when you get to do that, it's important. It was also, I turned 70 in December. I've won a jury trial now in 6 decades of my life, in my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, which I said is kind of cool, but it just means you're old. but I said it was a pleasure to do it. I've got 7 more jury trials between now and October and other venues and stuff, and I still enjoy what I do, and I still hope I make a difference.
Well, I can tell that, and it's hard to believe that you're 70. That's wild, first of all.
I am.
But you are high energy. That's for sure. Do you have some secret? What is there a secret to where you get this energy from?
I try to do meditation. I pray to God in the mornings, sit with my 5 dogs, and just try to stay healthy as best I can. So I appreciate that.
Well, I know you're busy. I know you really actually are busy, so I will let you go, but I really appreciate it. And again, please let me know what happens with the civil suit, so that, because everyone else will want to know, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all your good work.
So there you have it. 10 years old, 60 years ago, his mother takes him in this very same courthouse, and he just sits there and he watches. He's inspired to become a lawyer. It becomes his dream. Now, here he is 60 years later in that very same courthouse, not only living his dream, but doing something that almost everyone who ever went to law school actually dreams or dreamed of doing, but never really got the chance. Standing in front of a jury, literally defending the Constitution by intellectually obliterating a lying police officer with just the hard truth. He even warned the prosecutors that he was going to do it, and they still let it happen. He exposed Trooper Seth Owens as a liar, like a real-life Matlock, even forcing him to admit how bad he actually was. saving his client from having the book thrown at him, to 7 months later getting a unanimous not guilty verdict, putting that huge smile on his client's face, which is the real reward for that sort of work. And he's got 7 more jury trials scheduled between now and October. At 70 years old, and there's almost a twinkle in his eye when he says that, and you can tell that he's looking forward to all of these trials, just like when he was 10 years old. And that's what it's all about. I wouldn't doubt it at all if there are people watching this right now who will be inspired also to go to law school and to have their own moments like this, doing real lawyer stuff, literally defending the Constitution in a courtroom in front of a jury. That is what it's all about, not money. As he mentioned, there is a lawsuit pending. I have the complaint. I will post it in full at the link below. I'm really looking forward to doing an update on this one after the depositions take place. And you can follow along by subscribing both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. You can follow me on X at JohnBryanESQ. Remember, our rights don't end where your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it.